Let us begin slowly. Take a gentle breath. You are here, and this moment is enough. There is no rush, no pressure, no need to be perfect. This is Slow English, and this time belongs to you. Many people think that learning English must be fast. They believe that speed means success. They believe that more words mean more progress. But learning does not grow well in stress. Learning grows in calm. Learning grows when the mind feels safe. That is why we slow down here. We speak slowly, we pause often, we allow silence to exist between sentences. Because silence is not empty. Silence is space, and space helps understanding grow. Think about how children learn language. They do not hurry. They listen. They repeat. They make mistakes. And nobody punishes them for it. They learn through comfort, through patience, through gentle repetition. This podcast follows the same idea. You are allowed to learn slowly. You are allowed to forget. You are allowed to return again and again. There is no failure here. Let us talk about calm moments in life. A calm moment can be very small. It can be the moment you sit alone in the morning. It can be the sound of rain touching the window. It can be the quiet time before sleep. These moments do not shout. They whisper. And when English is spoken softly, your brain listens differently. You do not fight the language. You invite it in. Now, listen to these words: calm, slow, gentle, soft, quiet. Repeat them in your mind. No need to say them out loud. Just feel them. These words are not difficult, but they carry emotion. English is not only grammar. English is not only vocabulary. English is feeling. When you feel the language, you remember it longer. Let us practice with simple sentences. I am here. I am learning. I am enough. Say them slowly, inside your mind or out loud. I am here. I am learning. I am enough. These sentences are easy, but they are powerful. They tell your brain that learning is safe. Sometimes people are afraid of English. They are afraid of wrong pronunciation. They are afraid of wrong grammar. They are afraid of sounding stupid. But fear blocks memory. Fear blocks focus. That is why slow English matters. When we slow down, fear becomes smaller. Confidence becomes bigger. You do not need to sound like a native speaker. You do not need a perfect accent. You need clarity. You need calm. You need patience with yourself. Your voice is enough. Your pace is enough. Imagine this. You are sitting in a quiet place. Maybe it is early morning. Maybe it is late at night. The world is calm. There is no noise. Only your breath. Now English enters this space. Not loudly, not aggressively. It enters like a friend. It sits next to you. It speaks softly. This is how language should feel. Let us learn through simple thoughts. Life is not a race. Learning is not a competition. You do not need to be better than others. You only need to be better than yesterday. And even that is optional. Sometimes just showing up is enough. Listen to this sentence. I allow myself to learn slowly. Repeat it. I allow myself to learn slowly. This sentence gives permission. Permission to rest. Permission to pause. Permission to grow naturally. Now let us talk about time. Many learners say, I do not have time. But learning does not need long hours. Learning needs regular moments. 5 minutes of calm listening is better than 1 hour of stress. Slow English fits into life, not the other way around. You can listen while resting. You can listen while walking. You can listen while doing nothing. Doing nothing is also valuable. When the mind rests, memory works better. Think about your breath again. In and out. English can follow your breath. One sentence, one pause, one breath. That rhythm helps the brain relax. Now hear this. I am not late. I am on my own path. This sentence is important. Many people compare themselves. They look at others. They feel behind. But learning is personal. Your journey is unique. There is no deadline. Sometimes progress is invisible. You listen today. You do not understand everything, but tomorrow something feels easier. That is progress. Quiet progress. Slow English teaches patience. Patience with language. Patience with life. Patience with yourself. And patience is a powerful skill. Let us continue with gentle listening. Do not force meaning. Let meaning come to you. If you understand, that is good. If you do not, that is also good. Your brain is still learning. Now let us use imagination. Imagine a small river. The water moves slowly. It does not hurry. But over time, it shapes the land. Slow learning works the same way. Small exposure. Every day. Quietly shaping understanding. You do not need motivation every day. You need routine. A calm routine. A safe routine. This podcast can be part of that. Now listen carefully. English does not judge you. English does not rush you. English waits for you. You can come back anytime. Let us practice listening without translating. Hear the sound, hear the rhythm, hear the flow. Meaning will come later. Trust the process. Some days you will feel tired. Some days you will feel bored. That is normal. Learning is not always exciting. Sometimes it is quiet. Sometimes it is neutral. And that is okay. You do not need to feel inspired. You only need to stay gentle. Gentle learning lasts longer. Now let us slow down even more. Pause after each sentence. Let it sink in. English becomes familiar when it feels safe. This is not a test. There are no questions. There is only listening. If your mind wanders, bring it back slowly. No anger, no frustration, just return. Slow English is a place to rest, a place to breathe, a place to grow. You are welcome here. We will continue this calm journey together, one sentence at a time, one breath at a time, one day at a time. For now, just stay here, listening, breathing, learning slowly. Slow living does not mean your life becomes small. It means your attention becomes wide. In part 1, you began to slow down, not by changing your schedule, but by changing how you enter each moment. Now we go deeper, because slowing down is not something you do once. It is something you practice inside normal days. Inside noise, inside uncertainty, inside unfinished thoughts. Most people think a slow life requires a different environment, a quiet place, more time, less responsibility. But the truth is, if you cannot slow down inside a busy day, you will never truly slow down. You will only escape. And escape is not the same as peace. In this part, we talk about how to live slowly while life keeps moving fast, not by resisting speed, but by choosing where you give your energy. The first shift is understanding this. Speed is not the enemy. Unawareness is you can move quickly and still be calm. You can move slowly and still feel anxious. So the goal is not to reduce movement. The goal is to reduce inner friction. Inner friction is what happens when your mind is always ahead or always behind. Ahead means worrying. Behind means regret. A slow life brings the mind back to now, again and again. This does not require long meditation or silence. It requires micro pauses, very small pauses woven into the day. Before you open your phone, pause before you respond, pause before you judge, pause. These pauses may last only one breath, but one breath changes the nervous system. It tells the body you are safe right now. And safety is the foundation of slowness. Without safety, the body stays rushed, even when nothing is happening. This is why many people rest, but never recover. They stop moving, but the mind keeps running. Slow living begins in the body, in how you sit, how you stand, how you breathe. Notice how often you tense your shoulders without reason. Notice how often your jaw tightens while you think. These are signals of inner hurry. You are not late, but your body thinks you are. So instead of forcing calm, you listen. You soften the shoulders just a little. You unclench the jaw just a little. You exhale a little longer than you inhale. These small actions teach the body a new rhythm, a rhythm that does not depend on external conditions. As this rhythm settles, something changes. You start hearing yourself again. Not the loud voice that pushes, but the quiet voice that knows. You begin to notice when something is too much. You notice when a conversation drains you. You notice when your energy is low before it collapses. This awareness is one of the greatest gifts of slow living because it allows you to choose instead of react. Choice is where freedom begins. Most people feel trapped, not because life is hard, but because they feel they have no choice. They say yes, automatically. They rush, automatically. They consume, automatically. Slow living interrupts this automation. It creates space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you regain authorship over your life. This does not mean you say no to everything. It means you say yes with awareness. You stop agreeing to things that empty you just to avoid discomfort. You stop filling silence just to avoid yourself. Silence is not empty. It is full of information. When you slow down, silence starts to speak. It tells you what matters. It tells you what you are avoiding. It tells you where you are tired, not physically, but emotionally. At first, this can feel uncomfortable because many people use speed to avoid feeling, but feeling is not dangerous. Avoidance is slow. Living does not make emotions stronger, it makes them clearer. Clear emotions move through you faster. Unclear emotions stay trapped. This is why a slow life often feels lighter, not because there is less emotion, but because emotion is no longer blocked. You allow sadness to pass. You allow joy to linger. You allow boredom to teach you patience. Yes, even boredom has value. In a fast world, boredom is seen as something to eliminate, but boredom is where creativity rests. When you stop filling every gap, ideas return. Your mind starts connecting things naturally. You remember what you actually enjoy, not what distracts you, but what nourishes you. Slow living reconnects you with simple pleasures, a warm drink, a quiet walk, a deep conversation, a moment of doing nothing without guilt. Guilt is one of the biggest enemies of slowness. Many people feel guilty for resting, guilty for not being productive, guilty for choosing ease, but ease is not laziness. Ease is efficiency without tension. When you move with ease, you waste less energy, you focus better, you listen better, you live better. A slow life is not about doing less. It is about doing what matters with presence. Presence is what turns ordinary moments into meaningful ones. Without presence, even success feels empty. With presence, even simple days feel rich. This is why slow living changes how you experience time. Time stops feeling like something chasing you. It becomes something unfolding. You stop saying, I don't have time. You start saying, I choose how I spend it. This shift changes everything. You stop measuring your worth by how busy you are. You stop competing with invisible standards. You stop rushing toward a future that never arrives. Instead, you begin to inhabit your life. Right here. Slow living is not a destination. It is a way of walking. Some days you will forget. You will rush again. That is okay. Slowness is not fragile. It returns the moment you notice. Notice your breath. Notice your body. Notice the space around you, and you are back. In the next part, we will explore how slow living changes relationships, how it affects the way you speak, the way you listen, and the way you connect without losing yourself. As slowness settles inside you, it begins to change how you relate to people. Not in dramatic ways, not suddenly, but quietly from the inside. You start to notice that many conversations are rushed, not because of time, but because of fear. Fear of silence, fear of misunderstanding, fear of not being interesting enough. So people fill the space with words. They speak before they listen. They respond before they understand. A slow life invites a different rhythm. It teaches you to let moments breathe. In conversation, this means you don't rush to reply. You let the other person finish fully. You allow silence after their words. Not because you don't know what to say, but because you are present with what was said. Silence is often where understanding happens. When you slow down, you listen not only to words, but to tone, to pauses, to what is not being said. This kind of listening changes relationships deeply. People feel seen without you doing anything special. They feel safe because you are not pushing. Safety is the foundation of connection. Without it, people perform. With it, people open. Slow living also changes how you speak. You become more intentional. You stop speaking just to fill space. You stop explaining yourself too much. You stop defending every thought. Your words become fewer but clearer. You begin to trust that silence does not mean rejection. It means space, and space allows truth to emerge. In fast relationships, misunderstandings multiply because reactions replace reflection. But when you slow down, you notice your inner reactions before they become words. You feel irritation before it escapes your mouth. You feel hurt before it turns into blame. This pause is powerful. It gives you choice. You can choose to speak from clarity instead of emotion. This does not mean you suppress feelings. It means you translate them gently instead. Instead of saying, you never listen, you might say, I feel unheard right now. Instead of saying, you're wrong, you might say, this feels different for me. These shifts change the entire tone of a relationship. Slow living also reveals something uncomfortable. Not all relationships are compatible with slowness. Some connections are built on urgency, on drama, on constant stimulation, on emotional highs and lows. When you slow down, these dynamics become exhausting. Not because you changed for the worse, but because you changed your nervous system. You no longer feed chaos. You no longer confuse intensity with intimacy. This can create distance. And that distance can feel lonely at first, but loneliness is different from emptiness. Loneliness is the absence of noise. Emptiness is the absence of meaning. When you slow down, you may experience loneliness before meaning returns. This is a normal phase. Many people rush back to old patterns because they mistake loneliness for failure, but this space is necessary. It allows you to reconnect with yourself, and from that reconnection, healthier relationships form. Relationships that don't require constant reassurance. Relationships that allow pauses and boundaries. Slow living teaches you that boundaries are not walls, they are rhythms. They protect your energy so you can show up fully, without resentment, without exhaustion, without losing yourself. When you live slowly, you become more honest about your capacity. You say, I need rest. You say, I can't do this right now. You say, I need time to think. These statements do not weaken relationships. They strengthen them because clarity prevents silent anger, and silent anger is what erodes connection over time. Slow living also changes how you handle conflict. In a fast mindset, conflict feels dangerous, so people avoid it or explode. But when you slow down, conflict becomes information. It shows you where values differ, where needs are unmet, where communication needs adjustment. Instead of reacting immediately, you pause. You let emotions settle before speaking. You ask, what is actually being threatened here? Often it is not the relationship. It is the ego, the fear of being wrong or misunderstood. Slowness softens the ego. It reminds you that being understood is less important than understanding. This shift changes arguments into conversations. Not all conflicts disappear, but they become less damaging. They leave less residue. Slow living also transforms your relationship with yourself. You stop treating yourself as a project to fix. You stop measuring every day by output. You begin to ask, how did this day feel? Instead of, what did I achieve? Feeling becomes a valid metric. Not indulgence, but information. Your body tells you when something is right. Your emotions tell you when something is misaligned. Slow living teaches you to listen before things break. Before burnout, before resentment, before numbness. This listening is a form of self-respect, and self-respect naturally influences how others treat you. You become less available to disrespect. Not because you fight it, but because you no longer tolerate what disturbs your inner rhythm. This is subtle, but powerful. People sense it. They adjust or they drift away. Both outcomes are forms of alignment. Slow living is not about holding on. It is about staying true. As this truth deepens, your life becomes simpler. Not empty, simpler. Fewer obligations that drain you, fewer conversations that go nowhere, fewer commitments made out of fear. This simplicity creates depth. Depth in relationships, depth in work, depth in rest. You no longer need many connections, you need real ones. Connections that allow silence, that allow honesty, that allow growth without urgency. Slow living does not make life smaller, it makes it more intentional. And intention is what gives life weight. In the next part, we will explore how slow living affects your inner dialogue. The way you talk to yourself, the way you think about progress, purpose, and enoughness. As your outer world slows, something important begins to happen inside your mind. The voice that has been rushing you starts to soften, not disappear, but soften. Slow living does not silence your thoughts. It changes how you relate to them. Most people believe their inner dialogue is who they are. Every thought, every judgment, every criticism. But when you slow down, you begin to see something clearly. Thoughts are events. They appear, they pass. they are not commands. In a fast life, thoughts feel urgent, they shout, they interrupt, they demand action. In a slow life, thoughts feel more like visitors. Some are welcome, some are not, but none of them own the house. This shift changes everything. You stop arguing with your mind. You stop trying to control every thought. You learn to observe. Observation creates distance. Distance creates calm. When a thought arises like, I am behind or I am not doing enough, you notice it. You don't fight it. You don't believe it immediately. You ask gently, is this true, right? Now? Often the answer is no. It is just a habit of the mind, a reflex built from years of comparison, pressure, and expectation. Slow living interrupts these reflexes. It gives you time between thought and belief, and in that time, you regain choice. You can choose to continue the thought, or you can let it pass. This is not denial, it is discernment. Not every thought deserves your energy. As you slow down, you also notice how harsh your inner voice has been. How often you push yourself with fear of failure, fear of falling behind, fear of being ordinary. This voice may sound familiar, it may sound like motivation, but motivation driven by fear is unsustainable. It exhausts you before it fulfills you. Slow living invites a different tone, not indulgence but kindness. Kindness is not weakness. It is clarity without cruelty. When you make a mistake, you don't say, "What is wrong with me?" You say, "That was difficult." When you feel tired, you don't say, "I should be stronger." You say, "I need rest." These small changes reshape your inner world. You become a place you want to live in. Not a battlefield, not a courtroom, but a home. Slow living also changes how you think about progress. In a fast mindset, progress means more. Faster, higher. In a slow mindset, progress means deeper, clearer, more aligned. You stop asking, how far am I compared to others? You start asking, how honest am I with myself? Honesty becomes the metric, not speed, not applause. This honesty can feel uncomfortable at first because it removes excuses. You can no longer blame busyness for avoidance. You can no longer hide behind motion. Slowness reveals what truly matters and what does not. The goals lose their appeal, not because they are impossible, but because they are not yours. This realization can feel like loss, but it is actually freedom. You stop carrying dreams that were never meant for you. Your inner dialogue becomes simpler, clearer. You think fewer thoughts but more meaningful ones. You worry less about imaginary futures. You reflect more on present choices. Slow living also changes your relationship with failure. In a fast world, failure feels final. It feels like a verdict. But when you slow down, failure becomes feedback. Information. You ask, what can this teach me? Instead of, what does this say about me? This question keeps your identity intact. You are no longer defined by outcomes. You are defined by awareness. Awareness is resilient. It adapts. It learns. It continues. Slow living teaches you that you do not need to fix yourself. You need to understand yourself. Understanding leads to change naturally without force, without shame. As your inner dialogue softens, you experience more mental space. This space does not feel empty. It feels open. You think more clearly. You decide more calmly. You trust yourself more. Trust is the quiet result of consistent self-listening. You begin to trust that you will respond appropriately, even when things are unclear, even when the path is not visible. This trust reduces anxiety dramatically, because anxiety is often a lack of trust in yourself. Slow living rebuilds this trust day by day, moment by moment. You show yourself that you can pause, that you can feel without panicking, that you can choose without rushing. This evidence accumulates, and confidence emerges naturally, not loud confidence, quiet confidence, the kind that does not need proof. As your mind becomes calmer, your sense of enoughness grows. You stop constantly asking, "Is this enough?" because you feel it. Enoughness is not about quantity, it is about presence. When you are present, what you have feels sufficient. When you are absent, nothing is enough. Slow living returns you to enough. In the next part, we will bring everything together. How to live this way, long term. How to stay slow in a world that keeps speeding up, and how to let this rhythm support you without effort. When slowness becomes familiar, it no longer feels like a practice. It feels like a way of being. You stop thinking, "I should slow down," because you already are. This is where slow living reveals its true strength. Not as a technique, but as a foundation. The world around you will not slow down. Technology will accelerate, information will multiply, expectations will rise. This is not something to fight, it is something to stand within. Slow living is not about escaping the future, it is about meeting it without losing yourself. To live slowly long-term means integrating this rhythm into ordinary life, not protecting it like something fragile, but trusting it to adapt. Slowness is not rigid, it bends without breaking. There will be days when you move fast, deadlines, emergencies, responsibilities. Slow living does not forbid this. It simply asks that you remain aware while moving fast. You notice your breath even when walking quickly. You notice your body even when your mind is busy. You notice your limits before crossing them. This awareness is what keeps speed from becoming violence against yourself. Living slowly also means redefining success. Success is no longer about how much you do. It is about how aligned you feel while doing it. You may achieve less by some external measures, but you experience more. More presence, more clarity, more peace. This trade is not a loss, it is a recalibration. Slow living changes how you plan. Instead of filling every space with intention, you leave room for the unknown. You understand that not everything needs to be optimized. Some things need to be felt. Some paths reveal themselves only when you walk them without rushing. This approach reduces pressure dramatically because you stop demanding certainty before action. You move with curiosity instead of fear. Curiosity is calmer than control. Slow living also reshapes your relationship with productivity. You stop glorifying exhaustion. You stop admiring constant busyness. You begin to value depth over volume. One focused hour becomes more meaningful than an entire day of scattered attention. You work with your energy, not against it. This makes your output more sustainable, more thoughtful, more human. Burnout loses its grip, not because you rest more, but because you waste less. You waste less attention on distractions. You waste less emotion on unnecessary stress. You waste less time on things that don't matter to you. Slow living also teaches you to trust natural rhythms. There are seasons of growth and seasons of rest. A fast life tries to eliminate rest. A slow life understands that rest is productive. Rest integrates experience. Without it, nothing truly settles. This is why many people feel stuck even when moving constantly. They never allow their experiences to become wisdom. Slowness turns experience into understanding, understanding into choice. choice into direction. This direction feels quieter but stronger. You no longer chase meaning, you create it through presence. Slow living also deepens your sense of responsibility. Not responsibility to expectations, but responsibility to yourself. You become more careful with your commitments. You ask, "Do I have the capacity for this?" instead of, "Can I handle it?" Capacity is honest. Handling often hides damage. This honesty protects your future self. It prevents resentment before it forms. It prevents exhaustion before it becomes chronic. Slow living is an act of respect toward the life you are living. As this respect grows, you experience something subtle. Time feels fuller, not longer but richer. Moments feel more complete. You stop rushing toward the next thing because this moment is not lacking. This does not mean you stop growing. Growth continues, but it feels organic instead of forced. You change because you are listening, not because you are afraid of standing still. Slow living also influences how you face uncertainty. In a fast mindset, uncertainty feels dangerous. It demands immediate answers. In a slow mindset, uncertainty feels spacious. It invites exploration. You learn to stay with questions without panic, to not know without collapsing. This skill is essential for the future because certainty will become rarer, and adaptability will matter more than confidence. Slow living trains adaptability. It teaches you to adjust your pace without losing direction, to pause without giving up, to move forward without forcing clarity. This flexibility is quiet strength, not rigid resilience, but fluid, stability. As you live this way, you may notice a shift in identity. You stop defining yourself by roles, by productivity, by outcomes. You begin to define yourself by values, by how you treat yourself, by how you show up in small moments. This identity is harder to threaten because it is internal. It does not depend on approval. It does not collapse under change. Slow living anchors you inside yourself. From this anchor, you can engage with the world fully, without being consumed, without being rushed out of yourself. Living slowly is not about doing life right. It is about doing life honestly, listening before acting, feeling before judging, choosing before reacting. This honesty creates peace, not constant happiness but steadiness. A sense that even when things are difficult, you are still aligned, still present, still yourself. As this rhythm becomes natural, you stop thinking of slow living as a philosophy. It simply becomes your pace, your tone, your way of moving through the world. And that is enough. You do not need to convince anyone. You do not need to explain yourself. Your calm speaks quietly but clearly in a world that keeps speeding up. Your slowness becomes a refuge, not only for you, but for those who encounter you. And that is how a slow life continues, not as resistance, but as presence. One breath, one moment, one honest pause at a time.